Hi, everyone, and welcome to U.S. History, the second semester. I am your teacher, Mr. Snyder, and today we're going to take off right in the 1930s, right about World War II time, with the rise of aggressive dictators. And so the summary of today's lesson is that the effects of World War I and the Great Depression touched almost every corner of the globe. In some countries, these upheavals led to a new rise of a new kind of brutal dictatorship called the totalitarian state. These states were led by absolute dictators, leaders who were willing to use acts of aggression to invade other countries in order to enhance their own power. Their actions would destroy the peace established after World War I and spark a new, even deadlier global conflict. So a lot of countries are reeling from World War I. Germany resents the Treaty of Versailles because they were made the guilty party with the guilt clause, and they were not even present at the peace conference to defend themselves. Italy and Japan, even though they ended up on the winning side, expected more land for the sacrifices that they did during the war. So a lot of new countries were created after World War I. Some of these countries create peaceful democracies, while others create new, and other governments form totalitarian states. And the root word there is total. So a single party or leader of the government controls all aspects, total, everything, all aspects of a citizen's life. The social, economic, and cultural aspects. And these citizens usually have no rights. Some other characteristics of totalitarian states are that strong leaders, who are usually very charismatic, like Hitler, use terror and spies and police to impose its will on the people, who again have no rights. The government uses and controls the media, and they also use schools and youth organizations such as the Hitler Youth to indoctrinate people into their line of thinking, and they also crush any opposition to their way of thinking and censor political rivals, either by killing them or throwing them in prison. One of these places was the Soviet Union, a new country created after World War I. Well, Russia had to drop out of World War I to fight its civil war, and the communists win, and so Lenin and the communists take over Russia and form the Soviet Union. Joseph Stalin takes over for Lenin in 1924, and he continues the Lenin programs that result in starvation, famine, and death of millions of Russians. He is cruel, ruthless. He's very suspicious of everybody. His name in Russian literally means man of steel, and that's exactly who he was. He is hell-bent on transforming the Soviet Union from an agricultural power into an industrial power, and he creates state-run collective farms which don't produce enough food, and they kills at least 10 million Russians in the process. And everyone's upset with Hitler for the Holocaust, killing 6 million Jews. Stalin kills at least 10 million of his own people, yet he was on the Allies' side. In the 1930s, he purges the Communist Party of any disloyal members and any traitors in an event known as the Great Terror, and they are sent to the Gulag, which is a series of forced labor camps in Russia. In Italy, Il Duce, or Benito Mussolini, takes over. Italy is frustrated with the economic depression of the 1930s and that they do not get enough land from World War I and the Treaty of Versailles along the Adriatic coast, which is what they wanted. And because of the economic depression, there's a lot of hardship in Italy, and the communist movement is growing, and it frightens many mainstream Italians. So a man by the name of Benito Mussolini forms the Fascist Party, and fascism is their fascist party is a right-wing organization that appeals to those who are looking for leadership in Italy and national pride to make Italy great again. Fascism, the definition of it and characteristics of it is it puts the nation and even the race or the group of people above individual needs. So after this, followers of Mussolini, who were known as the Black Shirts, fought communists and socialists in Italy. And so the king sees how popular Mussolini is, and he asks Mussolini to form a government. Mussolini does this. He consolidates his power, and he outlaws political parties. He outlaws. He creates a secret police. He outlaws and suppresses labor strikes, and he also indoctrinates youth, which makes it a totalitarian state as well. So fascism could be seen as a form of totalitarianism. And then finally, we get to Germany and Adolf Hitler. Remember, Germany was a monarchy before World War I, run by the ruler, and then afterwards they become a democracy, and the Weimar Republic is formed. But during the 1920s and 30s, because of the reparations they're forced to pay for World War I, Germany is hit by the Depression and astronomical inflation. And they're also angry about the Treaty of Versailles, saying that they were the guilty party. Remember, they did not start World War I. So in opposition to this Weimar Republic, the Nazi Party is formed and threatens the new government. Not literally, but it basically threatens their establishment. And even though they're called the Nazi Socialist German Workers' Party, they're not socialists. They hate socialism. They hate communism. And they oppose any philosophy that puts individual rights above the needs of the German race. So this would be fascism. Hitler is the leader of the Nazi Party. He actually goes to prison after an attempted rebellion, and while he's there, he authors Mein Kampf, or that also means Mein Struggle in English. And he blames and criticizes a lot of things, but he mostly focuses on the Jews for Germany's downfall, and he is very anti-Semitic. Anti-Semitic meaning anti-Jew, or critical of Jews, and racist against Jews. And he writes down in this book that he believes that the greatest threat to Germany is the Jews still living there who profited from the war. So these people, this book isn't just something you'd find on the side shelf. This becomes a national bestseller. So many people are reading his ideas and of Jews being an inferior race and needing to leave Germany or being needed to wipe out altogether. These Nazis promise that Germany will rise again from these economic depression in the 1930s, and if you're a German citizen starving in the streets, you're going to listen to them if they are promising you all these things. And so the president of the Weimar Republic sees how popular Hitler is, and he appoints Hitler Chancellor of Germany on January 30th, 1933. Hitler also becomes president of Germany later on. He consolidates his power and he rules unchecked by the German legislature there. And in Japan, it doesn't form into a true totalitarian state. They favor militarism and they put a lot of emphasis into their military, and they say that if they expand into the Pacific, they will get new markets and more resources. The media is censored, opposition is suppressed, and schools are instilled to demand loyalty to the nation and to the emperor, Hirohito. So because of this militarism, in pretty much a time of peace, Japan finally expands and attacks Manchuria, which is the country north of China, and China itself in 1931 and 1937, respectively. And the brutalization of China is so bad that it even becomes be known as the Rape of Nanjing, where Japanese soldiers murder over 200,000 Chinese citizens and basically burn down a large section of the city. And so if you want to, when we talk about aggressive actions, here they are in chronological order. We talked about Japan invading Manchuria. Italy invades Ethiopia, which is south of Italy in Africa. Germany sends troops into the Rhineland, and the Rhineland is a section which is demilitarized by World War I. Germany and Italy both send military support to the fascists in the Spanish Civil War in Spain. Japan invades China, we already talked about. Germany annexes Austria, which we'll talk about in a second. And then Germany also demands a part of the Czech area known as the Sudetenland. And so you can see in the world reaction here, not a lot of world reaction. The League of Nations appears pretty weak during this time. They condemn the action of Japan invading Manchuria. So Japan, I'd like to say, just basically takes its ball and goes home. They can't do anything, so Japan just officially withdraws from the League of Nations. They put sanctions against Italy, but they do not enforce them. Sanctions being trade penalties, pretty much. The League of Nations denounces the troops in the Rhineland as a violation of the Treaty of Versailles, but they don't force Hitler to get out. France, Great Britain, and the United States refused to get involved in the Spanish Civil War. The League of Nations remains neutral, while both Mussolini and Hitler are sending weapons to his name is Francisco Franco in Spain. Japan is criticized for violating the China-Japan peace treaty, but again takes no action. So the League of Nations is basically a puppet organization. They can't do anything, and they don't do anything. And then what is the response by France and Great Britain and the United States? It's known as appeasement. Appeasement, the definition, is granting concessions to an enemy in order to maintain peace. So we give Hitler Austria. We give Hitler the Rhineland. We let him build up his army. It's making him happy. And so as long as he doesn't start anything, it's not hurting anyone. The Anschluss was when Austria was brought under German control. They basically had no choice but to accept this treaty that Hitler offers them, called the Anschluss. And so Germany brings Austria under their control. And he also wants to take the Sudetenland, which Neville Chamberlain, the leader of the Great Britain, signs the Munich Pact with Hitler, basically saying you can have the Sudetenland as long as you maintain peace. And the one reason that France and Great Britain allows this to happen is they distrust the Soviet Union and the communist movement happening there. And a stronger Germany would serve as a buffer to the Soviet Union. And meanwhile, across the Atlantic, the United States is concerned with isolating itself. We don't want another World War I. We're concerned with our own Great Depression and New Deal and fixing our economic domestic problems. And we don't have any unity with Great Britain or France right now. It's not that we don't have a good relationship. It's just that we're more focused on ourselves. And so that is the introduction to the World War II. If you have any questions, be sure to bring them back to class, and I will see you then. Bye-bye.